Good morning, councillors, staff and members in the gallery. Gary Quarterman, great to have you here in the media. Welcome me to Lee Ashford. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public gallery the council meeting will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on the council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor of the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. While remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. This includes filming by television cameras if in attendance is approved by the General Manager or Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wiradjuri people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders, the past and present of the Bangaree Nations, Wiradjuri Nations as well. Thank you. I now call for apologies and applications for leave or of absence by councillors. We have apologies that Steve Carmichael, who's away at a race conference at the moment. Would someone like to move that apology, please? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Meagle. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We also have an application for leave of absence, which is for Councillor Paul Meagle for the next council meeting from the 16th of December to the 17th of December next council meeting. So would someone like to move that? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move the confirmation of minutes to the last council meeting? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Disclosures of interest. We have one disclosure of interest.
Got two, sorry, Mr. Chair. I've got one from Councillor Meagle for report. It's already in the business paper, sorry. Report 8.5, Round 1 Community Grants Program, being President of the Rotary Club of Cora. Councillor Meagle's declared a non-pecuniary interest in that one. And we also have one from Councillor Longley for report 10.4, Howlong Industrial Estate Tenders. Councillor Longley's declared a significant non-pecuniary interest in that matter. So,
thank you. Would someone like to move that? Please moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against? Carried. Sorry, how are we going?
who did you get? Sorry.
Councillor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Law.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 6. There will be no items that mirror a minute, so we'll move on now to the General Manager's report. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. 7.1 is the Merger Implementation Plan and the Stronger Communities Project report, which comes through periodically to Council. So the report's outlined there in quite a lot of detail as to what's occurred across that significant program for both internal funded projects and community projects out in the wider council area. There is some important notes in there about interest calculations, etc. So I won't go through the full detail, other than at the end of September, about 40% of the what we call the NCIF funding, the New Council Implementation Funding, has been utilised to complete 42 projects, and there's 60% of funding to be spread across the remaining 19 projects. And there's some really significant projects, such as the local environmental plan, our rates harmonisation, our long-term financial plans. There's some big projects that are all underway and moving forward, and there's some really significant projects, and they'll take the bulk of that, the rest of that funding up. Across our projects, as such, our Stronger Communities Fund projects, we have had the minor projects round 1 and 2 roll out, as you're all aware. They've almost all completed. There's been one project we're working with the committee over at Oaklands to try and finalise. It's proven a bit complex to get the right skills and trades in to do what's called the Ruston cold starting engine project. So that's a delayed project, but we're really keen to try and see if we can get an outcome with that project. It'll really add to the precinct over there at Oakland with the history, and bringing in a huge old motor from out of Graincorp. So there's one left in the minors. The major projects, we've sought some extensions for Cora Bangarang Park renewal, which, as council were aware from the recent workshop tour, we had a good look through there. It's on track to be completed by the 16th of December. The Cora swimming pool, We've sought an extension till the end of 2020 for that one. Kiffins Reserve, Mulwala, Cora Skate Park, Mulwala All Abilities, the Oaklands RV Park and the Rand Sports Ground upgrade. So there's extensions for those major ones that are going through, and the report is there for the council's consideration. And I just made an extra note in there because Jennifer Lewis was our merger project officer for a couple of years of really hard work and put a lot of learning through our different teams as well, and was really robust with Jennifer's management of those funds to ensure that the council knew and got some good results. So Jennifer has finished her contract with council, so I just made a note there that council may, in the recommendation, that they may want to send a letter of appreciation to Jennifer on her work carried out as a merger officer. So recommendations there, any questions or?
Absolutely. Moved by Councillor Meagle and seconded by Councillor Longmore. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one to say that, especially as far as the merger fund, implementation fund, it's pleasing from the council perspective, to the council board perspective, to see that we've got really good value for those dollars, and hence the acknowledgement to Jennifer Lewis for her work in that. It's a lot of money, it could easily have been wasted, and I think that we as a council should be pretty proud, and the staff should be congratulated on getting a very good result for the money that they spent, and especially with some of those major projects still to be completed, like the long-term financial plan. I think this is going to put us in a really good stead going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Any further councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
7.2, councillors, is the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal review for 2020 and their annual determination of council categories. So the council have been across this topic quite a lot, including a motion that we put through successfully to the state conference, the Local Government New South Wales conference. So the review coming through now has proposed one change to create a new category called Regional Centre for non-metropolitan councils in that order of 40 to 60,000 or upwards for population. It doesn't do anything towards the council's previous discussions about trying to create another category or give some recognition of the differences between the councils who have really low population versus councils that are under the 20,000 in population. So that's up for grabs, not only the categories but the remunerations within each category. So it's basically asking for comments on all that so they can make their decision by no later than the 1st of May next year, and that could be put into the council's budgets, etc. So submissions are due on the 20th of December, so we do have time. We do have another council meeting before then, so it's just to get this through to councillors for consideration and to assist in the preparation of the submission for the next month. Recommendation to note and make a submission.
Could I move it, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
7.3 is a report on the Mickey City Friendship Agreement with Federation Council and the report on the Federation Council delegates visit across 2019, which occurred back in late September, early October, and we will have an address by the delegates, so it's terrific to have the students attend, and as is Gary in the background down there, who is one of the founders of this under the Cora Shire Council. So there's an information report there which highlights my attendance as well as the Mayor, as well as the 6 students that came along, as well as the 3 others that accompanied us, being Gary Poyderman, Talana Lane and Sharon Bridges from the high school. So there's a report there. As council are aware, every second year the council send a delegation over to Mickey City, and then in the other year they send similar delegations back, but that's been going many, many years. So the report's there just outlines briefly what occurred through that week. Fantastic series of events and friendships were created and strengthened, I think, our relationship between the 2 entities. And there's some ideas in there that council may consider establishing a committee to further progress the friendship agreement and receive a further report on that basis after some council discussion on that as to how that goes forward. But the intent of that simply was because the people who attended are really keen to make sure when they come out here next year, when Mickey City delegates visit, that we put our best foot forward and really continue to strengthen that and don't just leave it to 1 or 2 staff members to push that forward or rush around at the last minute. So there's some really good options, and I'm sure you'll get a lot further information when the students present here today as well. So we can consider that report now, and then we'll break while their presentations are on a little bit later.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Neagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Neagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Having had the privilege of going to Japan through this program, I can only reiterate the report in that we do need to put our best foot forward. The hospitality and the effort that Japan go to on our behalf to make us feel welcome, we certainly need to reciprocate that. And I do also like the idea that this will, because it's a great cultural experience for the students, it's a great cultural experience for the chaperones, it's a great acknowledgement of the two council identities. However, the opportunities for business, for tourism and others should be explored, and we've got a great relationship with them over decades now, and it should look forward to expanding that to future opportunities. So really support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Neagle. Councillor Law.
Councillors all know my high feelings of support for this project. It's something I think that the youth of Australia, of Federation Council, Australia and the world need to be able to experience, to go to another country and learn their culture, live with the families and see how they live. It's a great thing for world understanding and for peace. So I'm fully in agreement with this.
Thank you, Councillor Law. I totally support that, particularly the fact of forming a committee alongside council to make sure that their visit is equally as successful as ours was to there. I think that's a great idea, particularly with the people involved that in that committee that have been there and experienced it, so they understand what their likes and desires are. But thank you very much. I think it'll be something to look forward to, and maybe we can try and value add that with maybe staff from some of their councils, some of their expertise staff. There might be a bit of an exchange there. So there's so much infrastructure and roads happening over there, so there could be opportunities with staff to exchange a few of their ideas. So if there's nothing further, I'll put that. All in favour? Against, carried.
7.4 is a report on the recent attendance by the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and myself to the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference up in Sydney, and quite a bit of detail there around the motions and topics that were considered by Council, but also broadly. The conference, I think, was a pretty big success. They seem to be getting more and more organised each year in terms of the amount of business they can get through on that main day, which is the day that all the motions are put forward. So I think that was a good result. We had our current president return, Linda Scott, as well as quite a number of other directors and things did change over that period because the delegates all vote for the new board while they're there. And there's also a new CEO of the LG New South Wales, Tara McCarthy. But overall, I think it was a good couple of days. But again, the work remains then to push forward on the motions that were supported to address a lot of the things that we go through. But I think the organisation, the LG New South Wales, are moving along pretty well. So that just outlines mainly our focus of what our attention was put towards while we're up there for that day of business. And then the next day is a big day of different presentations and other things, and we do a lot of work with our insurance companies and others while we're up there. So.
Thank you. Can I move for that, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Neagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.5 is another report coming through on the water situation. So this report's a report on the ACCC, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission inquiry into water trading. So the federal government's directed the ACCC to do an inquiry into the water trading markets, particularly across the Murray-Darling Basin. So there's been already a number of engagement sessions on that to hear from those affected or engaged in those markets. And the information's there for council. They are after submissions by the 29th of November 2019, and it's a big, complex, broad issue around trading water and what has gone on in years gone by with water getting separated off land, etc. So it's obviously a very advanced market now, but it's right under the focus naturally with the drought. So the recommendation is to note the report and to delegate to the GM to make a submission on council's behalf based on any feedback prior to the 29th of November. So
Thank you. Moved by councillor Ward, seconded by councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
After reading through the outline of the issues, they have actually come up with a scope of the 5 issues, which is fine, but you must realise that within that scope, they haven't actually looked at any of the socio-economic impacts of either zero or low water allocation during the period that we're experiencing. So to flow on from that, and I would like to envisage that opportunity to be taken to give some form of feedback, especially in regards to that component, which is a huge component. And they had over 150 at the Deniliquin meeting, and I think it was about 135 at the Shepparton meeting, which was the closest one for us to attend. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but I did have feedback from attendees. So that's really pleasant. I think that people are taking their time out of their really busy schedules to attend these meetings, because obviously it's high on their priorities. So just give you that feedback.
Thank you, councillor Thomas. Councillor Longmore.
Yeah, look, if I may, through Mr Mayor, the General Manager, we have a conference with the Region 1 AGM at our council building this week, Friday, I think it's Friday. Is there some overlap in that regard we can go together, or do you see something, Mr General Manager, in regard to...
Yeah, absolutely. That's in the next report. I've got a little information report on the MDA meeting coming up, so we can talk to that as well if you like.
Yeah, thank you.
If there's nothing
I
further...
just noted a typo there. It says here in the background on the second paragraph, I've got written a final report is expected to be delivered to the government by 31 May 2010. It's obviously 2020, but they're wanting their submission by the end of November. And just wanted to note, I missed it in the report, sorry, back in the Mickey City report, just for the completeness and correction of a mistake here on the budget for Mickey City, it had written here in the financial implications of 50,000 net cost for 19 and 20. It's actually 5,000 net cost. So that'll get corrected, but I just wanted to be on the record. That's about $5,000 spent on the Mickey City trip.
Thank you. Would someone like to... No, we've got to move in second, and we'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
So just on Councillor Longmire's point, report 7.6 is the Murray-Darling Association Region 1 AGM and a workshop to follow will be held at Federation Council on this Friday coming, the 22nd of November. And we also have invited Andrew Kelly, the General Manager of West Karugan Irrigation, to come and speak to the meeting, or to the workshop I should say, after the AGM, and just give an outline of West Karugan, the scheme and some of the issues. And we're hopeful that the workshop will be able to try and devise a few more strategies, I guess you could say, rather than just having the MDA meetings in Albury where we go in and don't get a lot out of them, to be honest. So the Chair, Councillor Dave Thurley particularly, he's the National Chair, he's really keen to make sure we can present some things. And I thought, well, West Karugan, there's no bigger irrigation district within our Corrie-Ranna area, aside from the ones down my railway obviously, but we've been getting some good contact with them about their impacts from having zero water, even for stock and domestic, so they'll come and talk to that, and any other issues for councillors to consider. So the recommendation here is to note the report and consider that on Friday, any attendance.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
It's been noted that myself and Councillor Longmire will be delegates on Friday as observers. I'm really looking forward to being part of that opportunity, considering that we were able to go to the strategic planning in Echuca, so it just really gives us now a foundation of what we've already been through, just gives us foundation to experience that and what they do with one of their AGMs and meetings on Friday. And I think it's exciting that Federation get to host one, so it's good.
That's good.
Really good.
Any further comments, Councillor Longmire? Did you...
Yeah, I concur with Councillor Thomas in regard to, I think this is an opportunity for exposure that should be through the press and media, it should be identified, in our country, because I think, we are the commencement of the Karugan system, and it's so important to the economy of our shire, and so, I think it's important that we get value out of this, and exposure to what could come out of it, and it should be pretty good.
Excellent.
I read a report from 2008 that was done, I think it was sent to you, Councillor Thomas, a few years back, but I was just checking some old emails on Karugan, and they talked about the potential back then. Obviously it was different times, but the potential to change the whole district, still using West Karugan and using different cropping and methods, and the impact that would have economically. And so I think that any of those reports, it was quite a strong report into that strengthened basin in communities program.
Yes, yes. Or do you want me to speak to
Yeah.
that? Yeah, so on invitation from council, obviously the former Shire Council, I was actually part of that that working group, the strengthening, and we actually met in the old Shire chambers at the time. And probably the downfall of it was that sometimes when you go to these working groups and you form part of these working groups and you feel like you're putting so much energy input, I actually felt the follow-up and the capacity afterwards wasn't there, unfortunately. That's where I think that strengthening of basin communities let that concept down. Hopefully this time around we've learnt our lesson and we're bringing people into the room, engaging with people, make sure there is that follow-up and the capacity to deliver, because that was the downfall of that strengthening basin communities project there.
Thank you, councillor Thomas. Okay, I'll put it then, all in favour? Against, carried.
That's it for that, other than noting that at 10:30 or so we will be having a presentation from our delegates for Mickey City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask the Director for Corporate and Community Services report. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The first report at Agenda 8.1 is the statement of bank balances and the reconciliation as at the 31st of October 2019. At that date, Council had cash holdings of just under $33 million, of which $27 million was externally restricted. So that report is recommended for noting.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
The next report is the schedule of Council's investments as of 31st of October, so totalling $30.8 million. So the report is recommended for noting.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
The third report at 8.3 is the quarterly budget review statement for the first quarter of 2019-20. So this provides an update on Council's performance as of financial performance as at the 30th of September 2019. In summary, operating revenue and expenditure is tracking on budget for the first quarter of 2019-20. So there are no proposed changes to the budget in this quarterly budget review. Subsequent to preparing this report, we have received advice that there will be additional roads to recovery funding available to Council. So there will be a report coming to Council in December to detail some proposed changes with the revenue that we're expecting and the proposed expenditure in relation to that particular grant program. Council's capital expenditure, so there was a budget of $37 million that was adopted in the budget for 2019-20, along with carry forwards of $2.9 million that related to projects that were being undertaken in 18-19 that will now be delivered in 19-20. That provides a total capital works program of $41.5 million for 19-20. So at the 30th of September, expenditure on that program was set at $7.6 million, or 18% of that capital works program. So from our perspective, things are tracking where we have expected them to be from the capital expenditure perspective. So the recommendation before you is that Council note the report on the quarterly budget review statement as at the 30th of September, and that you adopt that statement as tabled.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? I'll make one. Thank you, Joe, for the excellent detail you've provided in those reports. It's excellent. I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
The next report relates to the audited financial statements for the year ending 30th of June 2019. It's a requirement of the Local Government Act to have Council's audited financial statements, together with the reports issued by the auditor, presented to a Council meeting as soon as practicable following the completion of the external audit. So at the last Council meeting, Council adopted the financial statements in principle prior to finalisation of the audit. There were minor changes made to meet the auditor's requirements, and then the reports were finalised and the audit completed. So the recommendation before you is that you note the final annual financial statements for the year ending 30th of June 2019, and that you also note the auditor's reports that have been issued by the Auditor General for New South Wales.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Just in regards to this attachment, I just found it really interesting to note that the grants and contributions revenue is up by 45.2%. And then when you go over to this lovely diagrams and you read their comments, I just find it interesting the council's own source, and this is in regards to own source operating revenue ratio. The council's own source operating revenue ratio of 52.29% is below the industry benchmark of 60%. This indicates that council is reliant on external funding sources such as grants and contributions. As we all know, we're living in a grant balloon at the moment. When that grant balloon pops, where do we go from there? That's what my concern is. Like, how do we cope with the coping strategies put in place? Or what happens next when the grants may not be there for us?
Probably the key grant that has skewed those particular results relates to the additional $5 million of merger funding that was received by council in December 2018. That has been recognised as operating revenue, so it skews both of those indicators and makes it look as though council is more reliant on that operating grant revenue. As you would be aware, that $5 million has been allocated towards specific projects, and they're potentially projects that council would not necessarily have proceeded with at this point in time if it didn't have the grant funding. So it's really about scaling the activity that council's doing to the grants that are actually coming in. So that's effectively brought forward some community assets that would not otherwise have been able to be delivered at this time.
No doubt our own source revenue will probably improve with the completion of our new facilities with the swimming pool. We can always drop out for recreation. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
The next report relates to Council's annual report for 2018-19. A draft report has been prepared to highlight progress on initiatives that are contained in Council's community strategic plan. The report hasn't quite been finalised, so there's just a couple of tweaking bits to it, but generally the messaging is consistent with the progress that has been made over the 2018-19 year. The recommendation before you is that to note the activity and achievements as outlined within the draft annual report for the 2018-19 financial year, that on finalisation of the annual report, that it be posted on the council website and promoted for the information of the community, and that the Minister for Local Government be informed of its availability by the deadline of the 30th of November 2019.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.6 relates to Council's community grant program. As you would be aware, the 2019-20 community grants program has a budget of $60,000 for the year. We break it into two rounds. So the first round has been advertised and an assessment has been made of the applications that have been received. There were 9 applications received requesting $25,755 in grant funding. Those programs or those applications have all been reviewed in accordance with Council's policy, and it is now recommended that you award 7 of those applications the grant funding as detailed in the report there. So there were 2 applications that the recommendation is that they do not receive grant funding, and there's some reasons and rationale for that in the report about where it's not consistent with the Council's existing policy. So the recommendation is that you approve those funding allocations under round 1 of the 2019-20 Community Grants Program.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. Oh, Councillor Thomas, I'm sorry.
I was just really talked to probably one of the projects that didn't get up for funding, and I have absolute clear understanding why it didn't, and I realise that you have to follow guidelines and protocols when you're delivering these funds. But I mean, this was the flyer for the marooned event that happened in Yarrawonga. You will notice it has a Federation logo on it, so it was given in principle support from Federation because it was very much open to cross-border people attending. And just for some feedback, how fortunate our ratepayers and our residents in Federation to have the opportunity to see this significant play 4 times. It was held 2 nights consecutively in Corowa and 2 nights consecutively in Yarrawonga. Apparently, my fellow councillors here to the left of me were able to see it in Corowa and they spoke very highly of it, which was fabulous. And there was all at the point of call where they had about 50 to 57 attendees at the Corowa event, and they had over 100 for the 2 sessions twice in Yarrawonga. But I'm really looking forward to us reviewing, especially when it comes to cross-border delivery of some of these funds. I'm really looking forward to delivering the protocols around it, because we're delivering these things and giving them money, which is fabulous, to our community organisations, but we're not going to say, oh, you can only attend this event if you're from Federation. Like, there is going to be some cross-border people attending some of these great events that we're delivering funds to, you know, which is good, because we live in a cross-border community, so maybe we need to consider that. So, yeah, all good.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.7 relates to the annual Corowa Swim-In and Military Vehicle Gathering. So this is an annual event that's organised by the Car Key Vehicle Enthusiasts Incorporated, and this incorporated entity has submitted a sponsorship proposal to Council for $3,200 towards the running of the 2020 event. So the event runs over 8 days, and the influx of visitors brings direct economic and tourism benefits to Corowa and the surrounding area. So the proposal had been for a gold sponsorship package, which includes a range of activity and naming rights for Federation Council. Council's sponsorship budget for 2019-20, the total budget was $15,000. At this point in time, there's $2,000 remaining under that program. So the recommendation before you is that that remaining $2,000 be allocated to the annual Corowa Swim-In and Military Vehicle Gathering, and that there be discussions with the organisers about what $2,000 can provide for that particular event. So that's the summary of the recommendation before you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, thank you. I note the recommendation and the report that's been presented, but I look back over the history of the KVE coming to Corowa and what it does. It's not in a holiday period. It does, as the report generates, brings a hell of a lot of people to the town and the district. Last year, the council gave $3,810 to this project was for the event. The year before, the council have contributed over $3,000. And every year they're breaking records. Last year they had over 270 vehicles, which was a record. The year before they had the largest gathering of swim-in vehicles in Australia, in the history of it. I think that they've asked for $3,200. It's less than they asked for last year. And the council's going to, because we haven't got the funds, restrict it back to 2. We literally don't have to do anything to bring these people to the town. We've got a caravan park that they stay in that's currently under reconstruction. I think we should be happily giving them $3,200 and bending over backwards. As early as a month ago, I was told that we charge these people $400 to put the banner over the main street. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I think we've lost too many events in the town over the last 15 years. We've lost the parachutes, we've lost the gliders. This is the biggest event that the whole Shire has, let alone Corowa. I think we should be somehow, through our director, trying to find that extra bit of money. And at the end of the day, it's got $1,200 to make this event continue to go the way it is. You lose them and they won't come back.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. Councillor Law.
Just to concur with Councillor Whitechurch, I'm very disappointed that we're not giving the full amount that they've asked for. They bring these people, their event runs for 8 days, most of them stay for 2 weeks, many of them stay for a month. This is a great event for Corowa. It brings an influx of people into Corowa, it services our business, they travel all around the area, they don't just stay in Corowa, they go to Howlong, they go to Mulwala, they go over to Rutherglen, to the wineries, they travel around, they see things. I know it's really annoying if you're travelling out and you get behind one of them and they're stuck doing 60 kilometres in a 100 kilometre zone, but they certainly bring in a lot of things to Corowa, and they're certainly, or to Federation Council. I would assume they would come out to Urana, probably if the aquatic centre is up and going, that would be a great spot for them to come to for a day. And I think that we should be supporting them to the fullest. When I was in the caravan park in 1980, I think that was the first year they came to Australia, to Corowa, and they've been here every year since. And Dr. Stephen Shao, when he came to Corowa, he lives at Splitters Creek now, but when he came to Corowa, he came expressly because he knew that we had that KVE event here in Corowa. That's what put Corowa on the map for him to see. So I think we should support it to the fullest.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments? Councillor Wells.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to say that you only have to go down the street on a Saturday morning when they do their run through to see how many people get in the street checking out what they're doing. So, we're at community there, it's nice for that community, and I think $1,200, I think it should be good.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Would you like to?
Just a suggestion to the mover and the second, perhaps an amendment to the recommendation that the amount of cash sponsorship be 3,200.
I think that's what probably should happen at point 2, just a change of the numbers. Seems like we've got a fairly favourable council towards that. So the mover and the seconder was
Laura
Laura Longley. Happy to change that amendment. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put that amount will now go to 3,200. So that looks like the recommendation that you like. Okay.
I need to put something.
That's fine. Yep. All in favour?
Because as we've only got 2,000 in that account, we'll have to say where we're going to put the rest of the money from. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the staff might be able to sort that there, Director of the Finance.
Could I perhaps suggest that, given we have the community grant program, and it has a $60,000 budget, we've just done round 1, and committed, yeah, correct. So perhaps the $1,200 could come from that particular budget.
Which doesn't need to be in the motion or the report. So, all in favour? Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.8 relates to a request to become a refugee welcome zone for the Federation Council area. So the Who Is My Neighbour group, which represents the Corowa Refugee Support Network, has requested that Council consider becoming a refugee welcome zone. So as we have discussed it at numerous times and is contained in Council's Community Strategic Plan, some areas of our population are growing and some are not growing. There is a clear message in Council's strategic documents that we are seeking a growth in population, and particularly in the young families population areas. So this will provide an opportunity to work more closely with this refugee group, and then there's potential opportunities for Council in the future with increasing its population base. So the recommendation before you is to note the contents of the report and that Council consider becoming a refugee welcome zone in support of the Corowa Refugee Support Network.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Orr. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, Councillor Longley.
Yeah, it's a great concept, Mr. Mayor. Just be careful in regard to the employment of our youth. There's a lot of young people that they have their education in Corowa, and if we narrow it down to Corowa itself, and then they have to go away to get opportunities for job and whatever. And so I just sense that how they blend it together to be unison in what the outlook is probably the biggest challenge. And certainly, yeah, there will be comments made within the community about, perhaps the opportunity for refugees to take the job of some of the local people. So that's just a comment I've heard on the outside.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. If nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.9 relates to the 2019 Bald Archie Prize exhibition that was hosted in Corowa from the 11th of October to the 3rd of November. So visitation was strong for the event, and the majority of the people attending were either from the Federation Council or the surrounding area, like Albury, Benalla and Wagga. There were a number of people travelling from far interstate, probably the minority of the people in attendance. So the exhibition is self-supporting financially and receives considerable assistance from the Federation Arts Committee volunteers who assist with the gallery duties. Now, I know I saw it every day that there were volunteers at each door of the exhibition that were supporting it and enabling this community event or this event to be conducted within our community. So the recommendation before you is that Council note the success of the Broad Archie Prize Touring Exhibition and particularly note the contribution that's made by the Federation Arts Committee volunteers to the success of the exhibition.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? Councillor Law.
Yes, it's great to see this exhibition coming, and whether we get it or not in the future will be another thing, but I think to see our art area used in such a manner is excellent. It brings people into the council offices and they can have a look around while they're there. I think we need to do more with our art space, and hopefully the Arts Committee are looking at doing other exhibitions and things there in the art space to utilise it a lot more. It's a beautiful area, but the Broad Archie is quite a feather in Federation Council's hat to have that, and it's the only regional area where it is, so I'm fully in support of it.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Wales.
Yeah, it's great to see these characters doing our wars and hope it continues. It's good to see these people.
Thank you, Councillor Wales. And I note that the People's Choice winner was the mother of a local lady, Rebecca Butler's mother, won the People's Choice Award, so it was great to see. Yeah, some local import. I'm sorry, not on the
Federation Art.
Federation Art, yeah. And no further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.10 relates to Council's procurement policy. You'll recall that you adopted a procurement policy in principle at the June 2019 Council meeting. This was released on public exhibition. No submissions were received as part of that process. Subsequent to that, there was some contact made by a couple of local businesses wishing to have discussions about Council's support of local procurement. Also subsequent to that exhibition, there was a change to the Local Government Act that we are now recommending a change to the procurement policy. So the two key changes to the policy that was adopted in June 2019 that we're proposing or recommending to you today. Firstly, that the change to the Local Government Act to increase the threshold at which council is required to go to tender increased from $150,000 to $250,000. So that will influence at which point we go out for a full tender into the market. So that is recommended to change. The other area is in relation to local procurement and is about supporting our local businesses. So the proposed changes in the procurement policy are that their threshold system, so for procurement up to $5,000, that local suppliers will be used where possible and where best value principles can be demonstrated. For procurement from $5,000 to $25,000, that local suppliers be given a 5% price concession. For procurement from $25,000 to $150,000, the local suppliers be given a 2.5% price concession. And that for procurement over $150,000, that there be an evaluation of the local and social value that particular supplier provides in the Federation Council area. So that's looking at things like where the business is located, where its head office is, where its staff live, and are they residents of the area? Things like is there sponsorship of sporting organisations, things like that in the local community. So providing an assessment there so that can influence the procurement decisions and make sure that we recognise the value that local businesses actually bring to the council area. So the recommendation before you is that the procurement policy be adopted with those recommended changes and that the policy be reviewed on an annual basis.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you, question, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything in that policy, I couldn't find it, in terms of the tender of a local discount or consideration of going to tender in terms of the weighting score that was given?
So Councillor Meagle, the evaluation, we have some selection criteria that we use for evaluating different tenders. So, what this will do is it will provide a 10% selection criteria evaluation, and then the other 90% will be a range of things from price, quality, those types of things.
So that's on the weighted?
So that's on the weighted. So it's actually, it's not on the price itself, it's on the assessment of the full assessment of the full value of the tender.
True. Thank you very much.
Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, I think what's important in the recommendation is item number 2, that it be reviewed annually. I think that's an excellent concept to go forward with, because we can review it next year and see how it's working.
Any further comments, councillors? Councillor
Yeah,
Ward.
Mr Mayor, I'd be interested, I see Councillor Kennedy, who does a lot of large contract work commercially, his views on it. The 10% being of the assessment value, obviously in the scale, given a lot of these matrices now have, say, 20 or 30% for price, 40% for ability to do the job or some configuration, is that 10% really going to be able to bring someone back in or out of the game? You know, like if you've got if you win it on price, you get say 30% or 40%, then you win another 30% for ability to do the job. You're sitting on 70. Is the local bloke still going to be able to come down with 10%? Is it?
It depended on the council's tender documents they sent out. What you, a lot of different councils have. You've got to actually say where you're buying stuff from, where it's, you know, who you employ, where you're based. It's and at the moment the Federation Council don't do any of that in their tender documents, which is going to be a fair bit of work to get their tender documents up to scratch if this is going to work. But it's pretty well 10% is pretty well on the norm with all the shores.
Yeah, I think so. I'm aware of that 10% is a pretty common factor, but as Councillor Kennedy just highlighted, there's a lot of work to try and make that 10% a governing factor, as in where you're purchasing your products from, staff. There's a lot of stuff going to have to be put into a tender now just to provide that 10%.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.11 is Council's workplace health and safety policy. A draft policy has been developed to formalise Council's commitment to providing a safe and healthy workplace for employees, contractors and people that come into Council's workplaces. The policy has been drafted in consultation with Council's Work Health and Safety Committee and managers across the organisation, and it's now recommended to Council to adopt this policy in principle and release for public exhibition to see if there's any feedback on that before final adoption of the policy.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.12 relates to Christmas opening hours and office closure. This is coming around pretty quickly, as we're all reminded of when we go in the shops at the moment. So the purpose of this report is to confirm the opening and closing hours of council offices over that Christmas period. So generally we do have a close down period. It's a time when things are very quiet from a business perspective. There will still be an after hours call out service that will be available 24 hours, 7 days a week through that period. So the recommendation before you is to adopt those altered opening hours for the Christmas period.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.13 relates to council's shareholding in Southern Phones. An offer has been received from AGL Energy to purchase council's shares in Southern Phone, and the board of Southern Phone is recommending that council accept that offer. It's recommended that this item be deferred to the confidential section of today's council meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Meagle. All in favour? Against carried.
Agenda item 8.14 relates to some changes to some lease agreement documentation, and it's recommended this be deferred to the confidential section of the council meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against carried. Thank you, Joe. We'll now move on to the Director of Development and Environmental Services report. Thanks, Susan.
Thanks. Council's before you is item 9.1, which is the building approvals for October. I'm happy to take any questions. It was a busy month.
I'll get a mover for that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
Thank you. Item 9.2 is the development applications approved under delegation. Again, happy to take comment.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
Item 9.3 is a memorandum of understanding between Council and Corowa Landcare. It was missed in the attachment, so I've just handed you a hard copy of the memorandum. This will formalise the agreement between Council and Corowa Landcare and help both Corowa Landcare and Council deliver on their strategic directions. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Question, Councillor Thomas.
I was actually fortunate to be the delegate to attend the Corowa District Landcare AGM. I've always been very pleased to be part of this process and been part of the process of Landcare. I'm very proud to say so. And I would like to think that our continued relationship is just part of the journey of our relationship, because as you would know, that Landcare forms a strategic part of our community plans. And also at that particular AGM, they did ask if I was willing to be the council delegate as an observer at their general meetings. So to flag that with me, which I'm happy to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
You're already on that, sorry, Councillor Thomas, are you on that committee?
What happened was they formally asked me at the AGM if I would be council delegate as an observer, and I said on the understanding that the memorandum of understanding was signed off on. So
Would you like, we might put an addition to that recommendation, to point 1 to endorse
Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Thomas. Would that be okay?
To the,
We can work.
to the Corowa District Landcare Committee. To endorse Councillor Thomas as council delegate to the Corowa District Landcare.
Is the mover and seconder happy with that? The mover and seconder being
Landcare. That's Corowa District. Corowa District.
Councillor Longley, did you move that? Or Councillor Law?
Councillor Longley.
Councillor, are you happy with that?
Okay.
Okay. I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Item 9.4 is the Environmental Operations Clean Air Regulation Control of Burning. This is to ensure that both the former council areas are all listed in the schedule, so Federation Council will now be listed for the burning of waste, and I think it's in Schedule 8.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longley.
I notice a very practical solution to trees, limbs, etc., and the burning of them in your backyard. I think in former Corowa Shire we weren't allowed to do that, but I think that's now part of it.
Able part of the...
Yeah. Which is correct.
Excellent. Anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Item 9.5 is the establishment of the Corowa Allawarra Floodplain Risk Management Committee. As council will be aware, we have received funding to undertake the flood study for those 3 towns, and as part of the process under the Floodplain Risk Management Manual, we have to establish a committee. Hence the recommendation before council, and we need council to endorse the structure of the proposed floodplain management committee and membership. So at this council meeting today, we're looking for a councillor from each of the towns to sit on that committee.
I'll get a mover in a second, please. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Questions and comments, councillors? We've accepted the 154,000. Point number 2A, a representative from Cora Townsend, how long in Mulwala? So,
We'll tag team.
councillors, can we take 2 for Mulwala?
We're going to tag team.
You want to take them?
Yeah, we'll share it. We'll share
Okay.
it. We're
Is that
happy
all
to.
right? Is that okay? That's fit now, Cora Council, so the floodplain management. Committee.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Meagle.
Now,
And how, Councillor Long, it's you. Thank you, councillors. And councillor staff, there's nothing else. Any further questions on that, councillor? Councillor Thomas?
In regards to the community representatives that you'd like to be,
Yep.
and you're going to source those, or do we go out into our community with suggestions, or?
We will advertise for the positions, but if there's somebody you have in mind, please approach them, because usually when we do advertise, we don't get a huge response. So if there's somebody who is very keen on this type of thing and has concerns, that would be great.
That's nothing further, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. And thank you, that completes your report, Susan. Okay, we'll now move on to item 10.
Do you want to do that?
Yes, councillors, I might move to committee if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, councillor Long, seconded by councillor Meagle. All in favour? Against, carried. And councillors, it's time to welcome the parents, teachers and students from the Mickey City trip who've just walked in and joined us. So thank you very much, and I hope they're going to put a presentation on for us. So sit back and relax and enjoy. Yeah,
have a little adjournment.
we'll have a 5-minute adjournment.
Let's have a little adjournment while we get ourselves set up and ready for our presentation.
Which way you want us facing?
Good question. I guess
Are we doing it up?
I think they'll do it. Sharon, you'll be using